Hello and welcome, it's Debs here. I hope you are having a good day. I've got a little something today. I had someone ask me a question about a video I'd made, and in that video I had talked about putting something to one side, and it was just a throwaway comment that I made, put something to one side, and then I carried on. And somebody said, but how do I do that? This thing is bothering me. How do I put something to one side? How do I do that? And what I see first of all is if you're not used to doing that, if you are the kind of person who has a thought or has something and it really bothers you and you're not used to putting it to one side, like anything, if it's something that you haven't done before, something you haven't practiced, something you haven't tried to do, then initially it can seem a little bit difficult. Like, you know, if you had never got up off your sofa, you're not going to suddenly get up one day and run a marathon. There is some work in between to doing that. But what I see is human beings absolutely have the capacity to think something different to what it is they're thinking in any given moment. And we have the capacity to put things to one side. So both of these things are things we can nurture and learn to do within ourselves. So first of all, I want to look at the question of why would we put something to one side? Because if it doesn't make sense to you, then it's not going to be something you're going to want to nurture and practice and learn to do. So what I see is that sometimes if I'm really overthinking things or things are bothering me, I have something on my mind, it can feel like, for example, if I'm making a video here and I'm thinking about something else that's going on, I'm thinking about what I'm going to have for tea later, or whether this video is going right, whether I'm saying the right words, whether I'm doing the right things, whether I look right. If my mind is somewhere else and I'm not present, it's going to be really helpful for me to just park that for a moment and do this and then come back to looking at those things, to sorting them out. It's going to be massively helpful to me to not have all that chatter in my mind and be listening to it. So finding the why would I want to do that is incredibly helpful. Like right now, I don't want to be listening to anything else. I want to be present to you and present to be making this video. So it makes sense to park any insecurities, to park any things that are going on for me that are hitting up against that. Park them for a minute. And the way that I see for myself, the way that I see that I can do that is, I used to have many years ago, I used to blush a lot. I would just go red all the time. If somebody looked at me, I would go red. And this became a huge issue for me. It didn't used to be an issue, it used to happen, and then somebody pointed it out one time when I had gone red, and it became a huge issue for me, and I hated it, and I didn't want to blush, I didn't want to go red. So anytime I got into a situation where there was potential that this might happen, it would come straight up into my mind, it would just come into my thinking about, oh, you're going to blush, don't blush, don't blush. And what I notice is when we're trying to put something to one side, it's very rare that I blush these days. It's very rare that I have that awful feeling of going red from, down here right to the top, to the top of my roots of my hair. It doesn't happen to me very often, because what I saw to do around that when it was happening was to, instead of overthinking so much about blushing, instead of thinking about it tons and tons, what I would actually do was take my mind somewhere else, put my mind on something else, think of something else. And every time my mind would go back to, oh my gosh, you're going to blush, don't blush, I'd very gently okay, let's think of what I'm having for tea tomorrow night. Let's think of the fact that I'm perfectly okay. Let's think of the weather. Because the way that our minds work, there is the whole, if I am there saying to myself, don't think of blushing, don't think of blushing, don't think of blushing, that actually, I have to think about that to try not to think about it. So it causes me to overthink it and think it even more. So putting it to one side, just moving my mind somewhere else, concentrating on something else, is incredibly helpful. During this video, there's been a couple of times when thoughts have come up into my mind that, oh, you've said something stupid, sack this video off and do something else, or those kind of things. And in the moment when that thought pops up and looks very real and very true to me, it's very, very tempting to stop speaking, stop the video, start again, listen to that thinking, get caught up in it, get drawn into it, and not be present to what I'm doing. But it is incredibly helpful when those thoughts come up to just come back to, what is it you're trying to share here? How are you trying to be in service? What are you trying to put across so that people can have life-changing experiences? And although maybe making a video and blushing, I can tell you some stories behind that one that would make you understand why I didn't want to do it. But maybe those things seem small and insignificant. But part of the reason, like the blushing thing that used to happen to me would happen at times when I was with my abusive partner, and he would accuse me of doing things that would cause huge rows, would cause violence, would cause all sorts of things to happen in our household which weren't great. And so being able to put that to one side was actually really life-saving in some of those moments. So that for me was where I learned to do that. That was the ground, if you like, that helped me really see that it was possible that as a human being that I could do that, and that has been incredibly helpful moving forward. So what I know is that as human beings, we have within us so much more than we think we do, and oftentimes it is only when we are in those crunch situations that we actually learn about these things that we can do. But what I'm inviting you to do here is not to wait until those moments, not to wait until it's a life and death thing that you learn. Don't learn to swim when you're drowning. Learn about your mind now. Learn about what abilities you have, because I know for a fact you absolutely have the ability to put something to one side if it's going to serve you, if there is a why that makes sense. And sometimes in this conversation, when we are learning things, when we're diving deeply, we can have certain beliefs or certain things going on in our mind, certain things happening to us that are really, really getting in our way of us doing what it is we want to do, learning more, diving more deeply, actually physically doing stuff out in the world, going out if we have OCD thinking, if we have scared thinking. It can be incredibly useful to hone this ability to be able to move your attention from one thing to another, to move your mind from one place to another, to move from one level of consciousness to another. And as human beings, that is an ability we have. It is an ability we can hone and use and begin to use absolutely to our advantage. So hopefully there has been something useful here in this video. If you've enjoyed it, do pop me a like, and if you've got any questions, do pop me a comment or get in touch with me. I love making these videos. I love being of service. I love sharing what I have seen that has been transformational and life-saving, life-changing for me. If you're not a part of my 365 days of cracking creation, where we are diving deeply into all of this, and you want to be, the links will be below to find out more about that. Have a great week, and I will see you somewhere soon. Take care. Lots of love. Bye for now.